On this episode of Eat Sleep Drive, we replaced the completely shot brakes on this M45. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I picked up this M45 and I did a review on it, and in my review I talked about just how bad the brakes were in that thing. Basically, whenever you brake hard, it just pulsates like crazy. You feel it in the steering wheel and in the pedal. So I know these rotors are shot, and I just want to get them off because it makes driving the car kind of annoying, really, when every time you go to hit the brakes hard, it just feels terrible. So obviously the first thing you want to do when you're going to do the brakes is get the car in the air. I got it on jack stands and remove the wheel. When I removed this center cap, the first thing that I saw was this wheel lock, which got me really concerned because I didn't know it had wheel locks. I just bought this car, so I had to go rummaging around the car, and fortunately in the center console I ended up finding the key for the wheel lock. So that was a minor panic attack, catastrophe averted, and I got the wheel off. And as you can see here, these are slotted and drilled rotors, and I'm not a big fan of those on a street car application. There's just really no need for it, and they're prone to warping and cracking in my experience. So happy to get rid of those, and we just got some regular blank rotors that we're going to throw on there. But I'm going to show you guys the procedure, so let's dive in and I'll show you what we have to do to get these brakes off. Alright guys, so now we're looking at the caliper from the opposite side of the wheel, and just like any other car, or most cars I should say, there's going to be 4 bolts total. There's 1 bolt here and 1 bolt up here, which are basically holding this sliding portion of the brake caliper, and that you take that off. You take these off if you just need to take the brake pads out. And then over here is 1 of 2, the second one being up here, of the bolts that hold this whole assembly on the hub. So these ones on this car are friggin' massive. I think they're a 22 millimeter, which I don't even have. But what I do have is a 7/8 standard that does fit. But I'm looking at this and not very excited because the bigger the bolt, the more torque that's on it, and I don't know the last time these were removed, but it's probably going to be a pain in the ass. So we'll have to get these off, but let's just start with the easy ones right here and get these guys off. Well, that one loosened up pretty easy. One of the things you're going to want to have is a bungee cord, because once you get this portion of the caliper off, you're going to want to support it somehow. And I usually support it by, hanging the bungee cord on the coil spring or something like that, because you don't want to put a ton of tension on this brake line, especially if they're older. You're just kind of asking for problems. So, like I said, if we were just doing the pads, I could just do this 1 bolt and swing this off if it wasn't seized on, and then we can just replace the pads. But since we have to replace the rotor, this one has to come off as well. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap my bungee cord up around here. And as you can see, this portion of the brake caliper is now free. You just got to wiggle it off. And you just want to head this way with it. There we go. And I'm just going to figure out a way to hang this with this bungee cord. Alright, so I've got my caliper hanging. Most of the weight's on this bungee cord, so I feel relatively comfortable that that's going to be alright. So now, and you can see that these brake pads, they stayed stayed on this bracket here, and these are these are quite perished. Wow, yeah, these didn't have much life left at all. So good thing we're changing these out. But you can remove the brake pads. They should just slide. This is the second one. And now, what I'm anticipating as being a pain in the ass is removing these bolts, but we will see. So I finally got this thing broken loose, and it's been a bitch. I really need to get air tools, but I've had to position myself and put all my weight. Yeah, I already had it broken loose. It made terrible noises when I finally did break it loose, but all right, that's one down, one to go. Oh, jeez. Whoever put those on before really went balls down with the torque gun, or torque wrench, or the air gun, I should say. I really need to get air tools. That took entirely too much effort and time. But let's get this thing off. Alright, so just taking out this second bolt here on this bracket. See these guys? I mean, these are massive for brake bracket caliper bolts. And then this just comes right off. So, as you can see by the puddle here, I had to get the PB Blaster penetrating oil out. Not sure if it helped or not, but it's out, so I'm happy. Finally, that is off. One of the things I like to do before I put the rotor back on, whenever I'm doing a rotor and brake replacement, is one of the reasons for a rotor to be warped is the fact that it doesn't sit flush against the hub here. So I like to get just a wire brush and just kind of knock down. Let me get the light here so you guys can see what the hell I'm doing. But just kind of knock down like this rust and perhaps any high spots that might kind of aid in that whole warping of the rotor. So we're outside here, just unwrapping this rotor. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing a brake job, the companies that make these rotors ship them with this goop, that is the technical term for it, all over the rotor. And I believe it's supposed to prevent corrosion, while these things, during shipment and as they sit on the shelf, before they get purchased. No one wants to buy a rusty rotor. So get yourself some brake clean, and you're going to want to clean off the braking surface because that shit is not good to have on your rotors when you're trying to stop. Ugh, God damn, these things are heavy. Alright, let's put this boy on, shall we? Oh, look at that. Now's a good time to appreciate your work. Man, I guess because of the coloring on this rotor, I don't notice how freaking big these things are, but these things are massive. But it's a good sight to see new parts on your car for sure. So now we're going to go in reverse and we'll start with our bracket here. Let's kind of clean off this surface that interacts with the brake pad itself. You kind of just get some caked up stuff on there. So I just usually hit it with some brake clean because it dries fast and everything. And I'll dry this off. And some brake pads, some manufacturers will send you a grease or some sort of lubricant to put on your brake pads. If they don't, I've had good success with anti-seize. I'm not sure if this is an approved method or not, but I've done many brake jobs using anti-seize on the mating surface between where the brake pad slides on this guy. And you don't want to go crazy with this stuff, but I've never had squeaky brakes when I've done this, and I'm putting entirely too much on. But try anti-seize if, like I said, if your brake pads don't come with any sort of lubricant. And for the love of God, put anti-seize on these bolts before they go back in for the next poor sap that has to do the brake job, which could be you. As you can see, I got the bracket on just with those 2 bolts in the back. Get those 2 bolts good and tight. And then you'll take your brake pads, and you'll know, at least on the M45, you'll know which pads to use by these little tangs. There's tangs on the other side, tangs on this side, and this little spring jobby. Probably easiest way is to start with the bottom. Put this guy in this little tang and push her home. Now that we have our brake caliper loaded with the new pads, what we're going to have to do is, if you look at the pistons in the brake caliper itself, you see how far extended they are. And that is because of this. Look at how little pad there is on these old pads. And if you look at the new pads, I mean, the thickness difference is ridiculous. So we have to compress these pistons back down. Now, before you do that, and I've learned this over many times. Man, look how clean this engine bay is. It looks freaking awesome. Check out my other video if you want to see how to clean an engine bay. But anyways, what you want to do is check the brake fluid reservoir first, because sometimes what will happen is someone will have their brakes will be really low, so they'll be real thin like mine were. And then say there's like a sensor on this or something, and a low brake fluid light comes on, and someone will come over here and put brake fluid in to get rid of that sensor, which is fine. You don't want to run low in this reservoir. But when you go to compress those pistons and you put new pads on with that much thicker pad, you can essentially overflow this and get brake fluid everywhere. And brake fluid is super corrosive, so you don't want to do that at all. So that's just a pro tip, something I've learned, a mistake I've made myself. So let's compress these pistons on this brake caliper. There are a lot of different ways to do this. If you are He-Man, you can maybe put this back on here, put the brake pad back on there, and use super Hulk grip strength and compress those pistons. But if you are a Joe like me, I would suggest getting a C-clamp. And just, you see I've got it clamped down here on both. And as you can see, I'm just gonna turn this down, and you see slowly but surely, see that piston retracting. And you're just going to want to do this on both, or however many, some cars have more than one piston, some cars just have one piston. But you're just going to want to compress this down until it pretty much bottoms out, and then you will be able to fit this on your new brake pads. So I'll show you guys real quick the difference. See, this is the compressed down piston, and the other one is fully extended. That's how much pad life we had used on the other pads. Now that my pistons are compressed, I'm gonna undo my handy dandy bungee cord there and lower the top half of the caliper back down. And then, as you can see, you're just gonna slide it over. Hopefully I compressed the pistons enough. This is where you find out. If you didn't, then it won't go on, but you see it just kind of slides on. So now that's somewhat on. I'm going to take my bolts that I already put anti-seize on, and then just try and line these guys up. All right, awesome. So we got our bolts tightened down, caliper and brake pads all loaded in. The one thing you want to do is spray the rotor down one more time when you're done. Make sure it's nice and clean, because a lot of times if you're handling it, you know, trying to get everything situated, you end up getting it all dirty and you might get some anti-seize or something on there. So just wipe it off one more time and boom, that's it. All right, so the brakes are all installed and all done. Drop the car. Don't forget to torque your lug nuts. Don't want to make that mistake. And then we're going to have to go for a drive and bed these brakes in. Now, it's best to follow the instructions that are included with your specific brake pads, because sometimes they vary. But the general gist is you want to go for a drive, do a series of stops from a certain miles per hour down to a certain miles per hour, kind of in repetition, and then you can bed in the brakes. So let's go do that now. All right, let's go for a drive. Got the 240 over there mocking me, you bastard. All right. Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds real good, V8. Before you go ahead and roll backwards down your driveway and freak out that you don't have any brake pedal, go ahead and pump your brakes a few times to, you know, kind of move that fluid around and till you get like a solid pedal. Because what will happen is you will roll down your driveway like me and forget, and then lose your shit because you don't have brakes. All right, so we're gonna start with accelerating to around 30 and braking pretty hard down to 5, accelerating to 30 and braking down. You just do this a bunch of times and you will bed in your brakes. Now you're supposed to do that at different speeds, so and you don't exactly want to come to a full stop in between. Alright, I showed you in the video what it was like beforehand. Let's do a pretty hard stop here. The pedal is dead straight. It's awesome. No more shaking, no more pulsating. That did the trick. Those front rotors, and I'm glad I did it because you saw the pads. The pads are ridiculous. They had basically no material left, so it was good timing for sure. Super happy about that one. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. We have a bunch of others on this M45, and we have car reviews and do-it-yourself videos, all kinds of stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.